All right.
Imagine traveling I-20. I'm going to bring it home. You're going from Shreveport to Bossier. You couldn't cross into Bossier without a bridge. The bridge is the gap between the two cities. This is what we as Christians are called to do. Stand in the gap and close it. Now, I'm going to provide for you what we say is a direct link to God using this bridge, and I'm going to attempt to close the gap. We are to provide a direct link to God for those who are unable or unwilling to stand on their own. Christian brothers and sisters willing to stand in the gap one for another. Let me give you some natural examples of what I mean when I say standing in the gap, and then we'll examine the spiritual side of standing in the gap. Let's start with a newborn baby. Everyone who has done anything to assist a newborn baby has stood in the gap. You stood in the gap for the baby because what the baby couldn't do for itself, you did it for them. If the baby was hungry, the baby had no means of feeding itself, so it cried. You understood the need of the baby, and you came forth and you fed the baby. Your feeding of the baby was you standing in and filling in the gap between the baby's hunger and the food. Are y'all following me? Even if you have ever gone shopping for an older person who was unable to leave their homes, the gap was they had a need that needed to be fulfilled, but they couldn't fulfill it. When you went shopping for them, you were standing in the gap. You were standing in the gap. How many of us have ever prayed for someone? Whether they requested you do so or whether you did it because the Spirit led you to do it, when you stood or kneeled before God in prayer for someone else, you were standing in the gap. You were standing in the gap. You were fulfilling a need for someone who may not have been able to fulfill that need. You was fulfilling that need for them. Standing in the gap is our duty. It's our calling as Christians. God is looking for those who are willing to stand in the gap for those who cannot stand for themselves. Are you willing? Accepting the call to stand in the gap is one of the most important things we will do as a Christian. We need to understand that things happen. Things happen when you stand in the gap. When Christians pray, things happen. When God touches our hearts and lead us to pray or intercede on behalf of someone else, things happen. We're not here just to live our lives. We are here to influence our family, our friends, our community, our city, our state, and our nation. If you are not willing to, listen to this, if you are not being a spiritual influence, then chances are that you are being influenced spiritually.